You want to learn how to do an LS swap that's cheap, affordable, and reliable? Stick around and see what I did to this 1979 Firebird. Just wants to go and it goes straight. So if you did not see my last video where I actually daily drive this 79 Firebird, I kind of went into the story on how I got this engine. This is just a 4.8 liter with a 4L60E behind it, and it's got a tiny little 2600 stall converter. Right now it kind of sometimes doesn't go into fourth gear, and I'm about to get that addressed as well. What I wanted to do here is just kind of go in depth on how easy this really needs to be and how cheap this can be as well. You don't have to go expensive. You don't have to go with those big old Holley, big name stuff. This has eBay parts. I've got almost 4,000 miles on it already. I drive it once or twice a week to work. Then I'll drive it at least to one car show a weekend, sometimes two. And if you notice where I live out in the country, and everything is at least 20 to 30 minutes away. So this car gets some miles put on it, a lot of miles. So no matter what, no matter if I'm going to town or if I'm going to work, I'm putting at least almost 100 miles on it each time I take this thing out. And it sits in traffic, and it goes on the highway, and it goes on the back roads. It does it all. It is proven to be very reliable for almost 4,000 miles now. This engine has 250,000 miles on it, and that transmission was supposedly brand new. But I messed it up myself, and I'll go through that with another video. But this here, I got a couple printouts here, and I just want to kind of go through some basic stuff that you need to do an LS swap as cheap and as reliable as you can get it. So to start off, like I said, I have a eBay harness, as cheap as it gets. I think it was less than 150 bucks, and it came with this nice little printout. It shows you, everything was not labeled. So I went through, and all your TPS sensors and all that stuff and your injectors, I went in there and I marked all them out when I was first installing it. So I was like, okay, this goes here, this goes here, this is cylinder 1, this is cylinder 3, so on. Anyway, this eBay harness came with everything. And even over here, you see I got kind of a mess right now. I'm gonna clean this up here eventually. But it came with a little relay block, fuse block and relays, which most of those control your key on and your fuel pump are the main ones that controls. In order to keep your battery charged, you do need a constant 12 volt going to your alternator as well. Okay, with the eBay harness, just make sure you got everything going where you think it's going. It's good to go on to lt1swap.com and print this out here. This is your pin codes. You got a red side and a blue side if you're using the stock computer, which I am. I have a 1990. This is a 1999 engine with a 1999 PCM. It's both out of a Silverado. So you have a blue side and you have the red side. Now if you go in through some of these, like you got your TCC control solenoid, that's only going to be used if you have an electronic automatic like a 4L60E like I have, so that wire is actually used. So what's nice about the eBay harness, if you look here on one of these injector wires, they got these numbers on here. So we got, 63 and 81, and you can go back and trace those wires onto the PCM and make sure that they're in the right pins. So on the PCM, there's all these pins on there, and you'll see the labels on them if you look up close. So it goes all the way up to 80 on the blue side. And it should be the same over here on the red side. So just make sure you got your wires going to where you think they should be going. And that's kind of the same with the plug. Make sure that your plug is right if you're running the 4L60E or some sort of E transmission like the 4L80E or 65E. I think the 60 and 65E are pretty much the same, but the 80 may be a little bit different. And you can see where I kind of made my notes here, just tracing things, just make sure that they're where they're supposed to be. And in my case, everything was where it was supposed to be. I've heard nightmare stories where they get their cheap eBay harness and got wires going to where they are not, where they should not be. There's your sound check for you. One thing with the 4L60E, and if you don't have cruise control, you're not going to have a 4-prong brake switch. So that is something that you are going to have to get. So with this kit here, with this harness, it came with a, you know, the purple wire, you know, whatever that pin, you look at your pin code on your PCM, and for my case it was the purple wire, needed to go to a constant 12 volt for the torque converter switch. If you don't have that, you will burn up your transmission. Your torque converter is more than likely going to go bad as well. The stock 79 Firebird that I got, it had a 2-prong brake switch, and I had to just go up to O'Reilly's, and it was, you know, $6 for the 4-prong. You know, your normal brake switch wires go right there, and then you got, these are for your, you have a constant 12 volt, you can go straight to the battery just as long as it's a constant 12 volt, and then you got your purple wire. That is it. Just make sure if you're using an E transmission, 4L60, 4L80, you'll have to do that if you don't already have this in your car. So to go into the engine, 250,000 mile, 4.8 liter out of a 1999 Silverado. The motor mounts I got are just the Holley motor mounts. I believe I had to move the clams right here to the other holes in there's like 3 sets of holes. I think the original set is right here, and I had to move it up just a little bit. Now this car originally had a 301. It may be different from if you say have a late 70s Camaro, or even a Trans Am and not a Formula that had maybe a 403 in it or something, or a 401, whatever they had back then. If you had a 400 in it, you'd probably keep that thing in there. Those things are rare. The actual Pontiac 400. So getting back into it, that's what I have for my motor mounts. Headers, these are Speed Engineering headers, the LS swap headers for G body and the F body. And I got one complaint, if you heard on the last video, is that these 2 wires here touch, and you can see I got tape wrapped around them, and looks like I already rotated this one time. Let's see if I can get in there, because they do arc off the header. I do need to get some boots for it, but that does take a little bit of time. Luckily these kind of dissipate heat pretty good, so it kind of takes a couple drives before that to start actually arcing, which I probably need to just replace these wires anyway. These are off that truck and I have no idea how old they are. So going towards the front, I got ICT billet, power steering relocation, and also ICT billet alternator relocation brackets. I had to get those because I could not close my door with the original bracket, because you had the power steering down low and your alternator sat about that high. I could not close the hood. While we're on the power steering pump, I use a stock high pressure line, and then I went to dirtydingo.com and they have an adapter. This intake tube is the original intake tube off of this car. It worked pretty much perfectly. I would like it to be over there so you get a little bit better, fresher air, you know, but I think it kind of gives it a good little factory look. I mean, it needs cleaned up still. You know, I kind of got wires and things kind of going everywhere. This is kind of a mess over here. It's going to take time, and this is a driver car, so it's, I mean, yeah, I do take it to little car shows and cruise-ins, but it's not like a car that I'm entering and I'm trying to win. This is just a fun little cruiser car. This came with the transmission when I bought it. They had these nice steel braided lines with 6AN. I got it into an external transmission cooler. I got probably the biggest ones you can buy from Summit Racing. I like the stock fan shroud, so I kept it, and I got a nice hidden electric fan right in there, and that thing works really good. So when I sit in traffic, this thing usually never ever gets above like 186, 190. I do have a brand new 160-degree thermostat in it, but my fan does not kick on until about 210 degrees, and it very, very, very rarely kicks on. So, and I'm saying sitting in 5 o'clock traffic. This is a 1979 car. How well do those front grills really flow? Pretty good, actually. The cooling system being talked about, this is a stock radiator. There was a little, okay, right there, James Davis. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it says 1/19/92. So this radiator was replaced in 92, and it works just fine with this. Top radiator hose going into the water pump is off of a 99 Silverado. The bottom hose is just a flex hose. I think the bottom radiator hose out of a 99 Silverado would have worked as well, but for some reason they're a whole lot more expensive than I was willing to pay. This one I actually found in a junkyard. It still had a sticker on it. It was brand new, and I think I bought that for like $5. I couldn't pass that up. I normally wouldn't buy your rubbers at the junkyard, but it had a sticker on it and it was brand new, so it's a no-brainer. Do it. So a couple things that you got to keep in mind too is evap needs to be capped off if you're not using it, and your EGR needs to be blocked off as well. This is adjustable throttle linkage here. I just kind of cut it real redneck style. It works. Go ahead, bash me in the comments, but it's lasted me 4,000 miles, so you tell me how bad it is. The original overflow mounted right here for the radiator, so I had to relocate the battery to this side. The original was on the driver's side, and I relocated it over here. So I could not use my overflow for the radiator. So I bought this little guy. I should mention I do have it hooked on a battery charger right now, just because I have not driven it in about a week and a half because of all the holidays and whatnot. Fortunately, this car's sad. I had some family in town, and I didn't go to work, and that's the only reason why it's on the charger. Just I think it's only been sitting on there for probably 15 minutes. It's fine. I probably didn't even need to have to do that, just to make sure. Moving on to the back, I have the stock drive shaft, and it had to be cut about 3 to 4 inches. Not too bad. It cost like $100, and I went ahead and got new U-joints put in it, and I think that the total it might have been like $190 or something like that. It was pretty cheap. It's not making a ton of horsepower. It's not ever going to make a ton of horsepower. This is just a daily driver car. Not looking for race car stuff. So, going to the fuel system, I do have a Walbro. I believe it's a 392 fuel pump right here. Got a brand new fuel tank in it. And I do have the Corvette regulator with the return. It's that simple. Going into the stock lines. Got no issues with it. And I also got a fuel filter just before the fuel pump. No issues. I say that, like I said before, last time I commented on a car, I broke an axle. So I'm not going to comment this car too much. That's about it. Fires up every time I want it to. I get in it and go. It's not like the old carburetor or with the old Rochester constantly tuning that thing. Sometimes the secondaries wouldn't open. If it was too cold out, I don't have to worry about that. You just full throttle. Everything's open at that point. You ain't got to worry about your vacuum secondaries. Every time. See how quiet that pump is? Love it. And this is just a short little video on how easy your LS swap can be. Don't make it more difficult than what it is to be. Just a little cruiser, nothing fancy on it, eBay stuff, and it's reliable. So if you guys like content like this, please like and please subscribe. We'll catch you guys on the next video. Take it easy.